What's up, everybody? This is our live stream from our live stream from Austin, Texas. We had some technical difficulties because certain people forgot certain things, and
We're not gonna say who.
we're not going to say who. Go, but yeah. So we just wanted to kind of go over some of the speakers and topics that we heard about over the weekend. Speak about what was cool and potentially what was not that cool. I don't know, but yeah. So
I mean, we would like to prefix it. We're not Python developers. First of all, we just came because it's fun, and yeah, we kind of missed the initial keynote at the beginning. It was about what was it about?
So that was the one by Kojo,
Yeah.
and he essentially in that keynote, it was the longest speaker there was, right? And then
Yeah.
he spoke about building community, also how senior engineers need to do better. So people of higher responsibility that have worked their way up through the tech ladder need to basically just also learn how to balance like mentoring and stuff like that. Then he kind of went into a little bit of a tangent about going to meetups and
Getting a
Google
hotel.
Maps and getting a hotel and all this kind of stuff, which I felt kind of diverged from the topic.
But I guess, okay, mainly the topic was what should senior developers do, right? Senior developers tend to drive a lot of the open source community, and it kind of does not allow a lot for, juniors or other people that are not coming from the default route of software development. And so how do y'all feel like as junior developers? If, I'm a senior developer. I mean, I think I've been doing pretty good with mentoring and all that stuff, but
I mean,
So what he was explaining was that, as a senior, you've definitely bumped your head a lot, and that's why you're a senior, is because you hit all these roadblocks and problems that you've had, and you learn how to solve it. And then you have juniors that don't have that actual experience. So basically, it's helping those juniors understand why things are done this certain way, because they haven't had that actual real life experience of bumping their head. But eventually you bump your head against other stuff. But it's important to, share what the experience was and why, and kind of try to save them some efforts, I think, and then, still bump your head against different stuff and learn other stuff.
Yeah. So I think his kind of main point was that us as junior developers haven't encountered the problems. We might not know why we're using this specific tool. We're just given this tool and told to learn it. But we're not told why sometimes, and just the how and why of this specific tool. So why would we use this package manager over another? Or, why would we use this bundler over another? Or, just that kind of sentiment is what he was touching on.
Yeah, also a little bit about that stuck with me was that, companies also, want to go, it's hey, I gotta hire people, and they go straight for the seniors instead of maybe hiring juniors and giving them a chance to learn, and then grow them into a senior, and grow with the company and all those things.
Right. Let's see. Another one that I found was pretty interesting was by this speaker named Paul Gansel, and he works for Google, and he did a talk, X-Fail and Skip, and what to do with tests will fail. And basically it was kind of test-driven development type of stuff. And what happens in the case where this should fail. And basically it was a cool tool to use, or at least I thought it was pretty cool, that kind of inverted the way you think about failing test cases that should fail, purposefully failing. I don't know, there's a lot of interesting talks. It'd be interesting to hear like what these guys thought were interesting on the first day.
I think they were all pretty cool. I did like that. I like automation. It's like if we have the possibility to save time and efforts, like why not? So I think that was pretty interesting. So I think that when I get some time back home, I'm gonna try to test that out and see what's up. Let's see. I know we had the one with chess.
Yes,
That one was great.
that
too.
one was cool. Great Snake Variation: Programming with Python Chess by William Horton, which was really interesting to me, just because like I grew up around chess. My dad has played chess for way before since I was born. I think when he was like 10 years old, he picked up chess, and so basically he picked up this. His chess game again because he used to play when he was younger during the pandemic when everybody kind of picked up new hobbies and stuff, like some of us with coding. But he got back into chess and was using chess.com and another really big chess platform called Lichess. And basically they also aggregate data about your games, and you can access that data and you can use some really cool dependencies or whatever, or tools to help you analyze your game and get better. And he also kind of presented some data on his game of chess and how it kind of markedly improved through this process. So it was pretty interesting. Though, like when I first saw the title of the talk, for some reason, I thought he was going to be making like a Snake game until I saw the chess part of it.
Well, I think it was really cool that it wasn't just explaining, his journey with chess and what it meant to him, but the idea of solving this problem, right? Like he found this problem for himself, and it's like using Python on all the resources to solve these other problems. So it's like basically an idea of
combining several technologies together and kind of creating something to help him analyze and get better at his own game, which is always cool, right? Let's see, what else was really cool on the first day?
we got lots of swag.
Right? We ate
That was
good
pretty
food.
cool. Yeah, we had a good time. We had an after party, got some food there.
Did some networking and stuff for sure. Another interesting talk on the first day I thought was Laura Santamaria. And she used to be a weather scientist. I'm not sure of the exact term, but that was like what she got her degree in and all this kind of stuff. And she at some point switched her career into developer relations. And so she current DevRel, and it was kind of interesting because apparently the day we arrived is apparently like the biggest day for hail in Austin.
Right.
And so we're in Texas in general, I think, or the region, but Travis County is what she said. But anyways, she basically used the data that I'm not sure what reports it, but there's some like exposed data that you can get on the internet, but that it basically deals with the weather services, right?
Yeah, weather APIs.
Yeah, and she fed it data from that, and then presented this graph of like what day actually has the most hail, and it was insane.
Yep.
Like that day, I think it was March 25th, right? Way markedly higher for hail in the area. So that was pretty cool to see, like a real scientist or past scientist who obviously still a real scientist get to like, show us something cool of programming, dealing with actual science too. Like that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, okay. So from the technical portion of it, basically a lot of people don't have the ability to purchase a very powerful computer, right? So nobody's going to have the latest quantum computer in the future. We have the Watson computer that you can rent some time on and do calculations, right? And her talk mainly talked about how we can leverage a lot of the cloud providers, AWS, DigitalOcean, Azure,
come on,
right?
man.
All the big ones, especially DigitalOcean.
She worked for another one though too, right? Like it was a
I
different
don't recall,
platform,
but basically, being able to leverage those competing resources, especially because a lot of them do have some level of free tier, and being able to leverage that and allowing to also, because this relates to science, right? And then basically science needs to be repeatable in order to validate the results essentially. Being able to deploy directly to a cloud system with all the proper, same CPU, same RAM, same resources, that allows other peers to basically peer review it and be able to deploy and do their own testing as well. And they don't require to have the newest MacBook Pro or whatever. They can run it off of, from a Chromebook, right? Because they're just sending commands to the Azure clouds, right? So
yeah.
that was my takeaway.
Yeah, that was a big portion of it for sure. And I found it to be like one of the coolest talks of the first day for sure.
Yeah, and I think, well, like talking about her, like today she did a lightning talk, and it was super cool because she was just basically inspiring everybody to, like lean into a little bit of being a DevRel and how we can, help the community if we all stand together. And, we've all had problems that we've solved that maybe we're thinking, like it's not worth sharing it, but in reality that we could, help benefit the community out there and share our experiences. And I think it's a great plus. I think DevRel is just amazing. I think we should all like somehow do it.
Yeah, she basically was just saying like, get up and public speak, do community stuff, be active in the community in her lightning talk. I think yesterday she, going back to the cloud stuff, was like she used the term, well, it works on my machine, right? And so as developers, we probably either said that or heard that before, and it's true, right? Something will be working in your local environment and you transfer that to somebody else's environment and it doesn't work, right? So that was like the cool thing about using the cloud for it. You didn't have to like use your own resources, right?
I don't think like when you're processing stuff at that level, nobody like having that kind of resource just takes so much money, like it's
Right.
like, no, like, I don't know, like if for normal people, I think it's beyond. So just paying like for a subscription or like as much, I know for Azure, it's like as whatever you compute is, what they charge you. So
Yeah. My favorite talk of the first day was the last speaker, Ali Sivji. I think I'm saying that right. He worked for a health tech company. He lived in Chicago and was just down for speaking. But he did a talk on everyday design patterns and specifically on the observer pattern, which is a type of development pattern, right? And it was really cool to see because he actually got into some JavaScript as well, showing different and that to me was highly relatable, right? In fact, JavaScript kind of eased its foot in the door a few times during the weekend. So, but what did you like about that talk, Miguel?
To be honest, by that time I was already tired.
I think we all were, but yeah.
Yeah.
He was loud. He actually he could hear him.
Yeah.
He's just had good energy. Probably the best energy of the day. He's kind of like you sound like a surfer, bro. And it was awesome and very intelligent dude.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can't say much about that particular portion of it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Should we move into day 2?
I think so. It's fresher in my mind. So it was today.
Yeah, I mean, start off with The
The
coding
30 minutes that we waited for food when they just told us that they're not serving food anymore.
Austin experience.
Yeah, so we caught the end of the minimal viable security, which is pretty interesting. We all know the minimal viable product essentially, but a lot of developers, especially if you're not part of the security portion of it, you don't fully consider it. And that usually it's left to the very end. And so being able to have basically a framework in a way that kind of handles your security, right? A lot of early on developers don't really know about environment variables, etc. But being able to have all this like infrastructure plug into your whole development, DevOps, CI/CD pipeline, it's pretty cool. And being able to basically just import it from, I believe he was using GitHub Actions, if I recall correctly,
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
of the sort. But being able to create that framework that just kind of ties into your projects and is able to validate all that is pretty nice. So we pretty much caught the tail end of it. That's kind of what I took away from that particular talk. Do you guys have any input on that part of it?
Not for me.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we just got the tail end of that one, so we didn't see the whole thing. And that was followed by PJ Haggerty, who did coding and the Mozart effect, and that wasn't technical talk. It was from a musician named, well, I already said his name, PJ, and he spent most of his life in making music and playing instruments, etc., recording music, listening to music. And he was basically speaking on how music can help with the elasticity of your mind and help with cognitive improvement. And he kind of went really in depth of an old study where they were studying Mozart and with mentally ill patients and seeing cognitive improvement, but how they kind of found out that it worked for everybody. And it was also highly dependent on your taste in music as well.
Yeah.
So one person could be listening to essentially death metal, right? And getting that cognitive improvement while they're coding or whatever, right? But we know that coding is very labor intensive for the mind. And so it was an interesting talk for sure.
I think the part that I remember the most when he was talking about the earbuds and everything.
Oh,
And it's how they actually hurt. They're not good for your ears, and it could be a very serious situation. I think we should drop, later on the link of all the talks so you guys can see, what he was talking about, because I don't want to bash any companies and stuff. So
Apple, what? We all have AirPods.
or Beats by Dre.
It's all fine.
yeah.
But I guess my takeaway from that particular talk was our senses are linked to memory, essentially. And so it tends to be the case that music seems to stimulate our brain when we're coding somehow, which is nice. And basically, it doesn't necessarily need to be music, right? It just tends to be that way for a lot of developers. Personally, I like to watch TV shows when I'm coding. So for me, it would be more of just audio or people talking, right? Like background noise. So yeah, I specifically, it's not music necessarily, I would say. It's just audio.
Yeah, he had another point too. That people that were deaf or highly hearing impaired had the same kind of reactions to smells and sights and loud music where they can feel the vibrations. Will also improve their cognitive abilities for a bit of time. And there's a little bit of talk of doing it for a long time and kind of keeping your brain in this area.
Basically, you can level up.
Yes,
After-
level up your brain.
After long exposures, essentially. But yeah, that was a really good talk. Let's see.
After that was lunch and then lightning talks. And if you don't know what lightning talks are, there's quick 5-minute talks. We spoke a little bit about Laura Santa Maria with her lightning talk about public speaking and community engagement, etc. But Ali Sivji, who we spoke about just a minute ago, also gave a super funny talk about what was it, compiling, or what happens when you install a package.
Well, it was 3 different Python different, not like bad habits, I guess. I don't know.
Oh yeah, about importing modules
Mm.
and how when you run Python, again, we're not Python experts.
Not yet.
You import it, but then you can't re-import it basically until you stop the process and restart it. But technically, you can like attach it to the system and do a .reload and reload the module, something like that. And then there's like specific best practices, and then you have to basically make it more dynamic, where you can import from like system.path, and then like inject the modules and their paths and make them all more dynamic, and like basically how that all works. And then it kind of basically relates to how we use npm package with Node and JavaScript. We use Composer for PHP. .NET uses NuGet package managers, right? So we have all these package managers, and we just kind of like forget that that's abstracting a lot of like libraries and stuff that we're using within our code, and how we're actually. I feel like this gets into more of a very, very big rabbit hole of optimization in a way. That at what point are we abstracting a lot of the package management, right? And how all that works and what's best practice. So yeah, that was a very interesting talk.
Yeah, it was definitely it was like stand up kind of. He was really funny.
Oh, the presentation was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was funny. That was followed by this girl from the Bay Area named Danica Fine. And she gave a talk, Practical Pipelines, a houseplant soil alerting system with KSLDB. So essentially, she also picked up another hobby during the pandemic, and that was houseplants. And she had a lot of them, basically. And she wanted to make a system that could monitor her plants for her. And she did that with Python, Kafka, and a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
That was way overkill for what she needed, but there wasn't a lot of Raspberry
A
Pis.
couple sensors,
Mhm. Some
soldering.
sensors, yeah.
I mean, it was. I think
She
it was
created her
amazing.
own wiring for
Yeah,
it.
it was crazy.
It was cool. But essentially, she just wrote some code that would alert her after a certain amount of time whenever the reports kept coming back in an alert stage. And it would then send it to her on Telegram, which was also a pretty cool feature, I thought. But yeah, that was really interesting. I got a chance to talk with her and catch up with her after her talk, and she was very cool.
That's a great solution to I think people that have a lot of plants. It's like it kind of drives me mad of because they they need different amounts of water. So when she brought all this data in, so it would tell her this plant needs water now, because with the sensor what level it's at.
Mm-hmm.
And that was I think that was so cool. I'd
Yeah.
actually like to attempt to make that.
Mhm.
What was after that? Automating build tasks with Build Magic by Chris Morrow. And that was really interesting because the way that he was writing tests with Build Magic was it was really cool. But I can't remember specifics of that, because the one after that kind of really captured my
Was that the last
attention.
one? The one right
So
after?
I mean,
Testing with Playwright was the
Yeah,
Build-
that one was amazing.
Yeah, Build Magic mainly. I mean, it was more of mostly a lot of people basically do web development, which that's on the web, everybody has a browser, we tend to have decent standards throughout different operating systems, right? Chrome, it works the same throughout Mac, Windows, Linux, right? It's all the same thing. But if you're an applications developer developing, with Python, you can use it to develop desktop applications, C Sharp, and so his example was his example was somebody developed a tool in Python, they used it on Mac, and then a fellow developer wanted to use that utility as well, but she was using Windows, right? So obviously you can't compile Python. Well, you can compile Python for Windows, and the developer could and basically use install Python in Windows, blah blah blah. Mac by default comes with Python, so like not a big deal. But then the developer had to give it to one of their managers or higher ups that are not developers, right? And obviously you're not going to tell your non-developer management or customer, whatever, go download Python and then just do py run, right? Whatever. So basically, then the guy had to figure out how to deploy it to like a Python to EX, which is another build process essentially, to basically wrap the Python file inside of a .exe executable for Windows essentially. And then now it's just a one-click process, right? It bundles in Python and all that stuff. It takes care of everything as a single-click solution. And obviously, every time you need to repeat the process, it becomes a hassle, right? So I guess Build Magic basically allows you to automate a lot of that stuff, which is great. There's a lot of other CI/CD stuff that allows you to do that as well, right? So C# development, especially with the new .NET, you're able to basically compile your applications for Mac, Windows, all that stuff. And then, your code base, you can have share code, etc. So I guess it really comes down to we probably look more into Build Magic, honestly. But to me, I don't see a need for it right now, personally. But there's probably a few edge cases where Build Magic would be useful for other particular tasks, right? He had a good example, but I can't recall right now. But yeah, it really does. I feel like it's a different edge case. Like any tool, there's one for everything, So yeah.
And then the last talk was awesome web testing with Playwright, and that was by Andrew Knight, but he went by Pandy.
Automation Panda.
Yeah,
Automation Panda and Twitter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that one was super, super interesting to me because essentially he was showing how you could write tests in Python for your front end stuff, and what it would do, it literally how it read out is what it did. So it would find this element by ID or class or by tag, right? Or X. I can't remember. Anyways, not important. And essentially, you could then click that thing manually, and then click this search bar, and then type this in and search for this thing. So basically, what he did was search over, was it DuckDuckGo?
Yeah.
He created a test that would go navigate to DuckDuckGo, right, and then there was also edge cases right in there, if this doesn't load, etc. But then he wanted to click the search bar, right? And then he wanted to search for pandas and then get images back, right? And the way he just kind of wrote these simple tests that almost just read out like English almost, and it was super cool then to watch it actually happen. It opens up a browser and then navigates to DuckDuckGo and then clicks the search bar, right? And then types in this query and then press send, search, right? And then boom, pandas pop up, tests over, passes, cool. All right.
Yep. So a lot of, I would say, in the JavaScript world and other you'll probably be familiar with Puppeteer, which kind of automates the front end testing, stuff like that. So if Puppeteer, it's similar, for testing front end with Playwright. It just seems to be that Playwright has a pretty nice interface and writing code. It's pretty straightforward. A lot of Python things tend to be pretty simple, and yeah, very powerful and feature rich, right? So yeah, it was definitely interesting. One thing to note that I think was kind of important. You don't test it on an actual browser, right? So you don't test it on Chrome, Firefox, etc. You actually are testing it within the actual render engine, WebKit, Chromium, which it's not a big deal because most all browsers are using either Chromium, WebKit, or whatever Firefox render engine is. I think it's like an offshoot of Chromium. I don't remember. Anyways, irrelevant. Nobody uses Firefox anyways.
Gecko?
It's like 3%. No, it's not
I
Gecko.
used to use a lot.
No,
I think that was the old one. I'm not sure. But yeah, so the idea too was like being able to automate like very like workflows, in my opinion. That's what I thought about. So a lot of business cases, they tend to come to you and be like, hey, this is how we want it to flow, right? So now you can technically make tests for it and actually watch the flow, and deploy it and do all that stuff a lot easier. And obviously you can abstract a lot of those tests to be reusable with like different environments, right? Because you can, like his example was like basically a very boilerplate example of how to test a search feature, right? Many websites or projects have search features, right? And a lot of that boilerplate, literally, if you make those parameters that you pass into that test, right? Like the URL, actions, all that stuff, you can make it a reusable utility for every project where I'm testing it on website ABC that has a search feature, and then I have another website called 123, right? And they also have the search feature. And then I just have that one single test that I just pass the URL, the domain, and then most likely they'll have the same class structure as well, because most search engines, right? Your input's gonna be search, all that stuff. Like the naming conventions are mostly very similar. So most of the time you don't even have to change those values, right? It would just be the domain, essentially, especially if you follow a specific pattern as you develop your own websites, right? So I feel that these are very reusable tests, which is another really cool thing from that particular framework. And I'm sure there's other tools that probably do similar stuff, but his examples were really nice.
Yeah, I mean, like he basically was summing up like how Playwright tests can set up much faster than traditional web UI tests, and it was also just like super readable, right? Which was cool because it literally read out like instructions. Navigate to here, click this, just it was really cool. I definitely plan on checking that out a little bit more.
Yeah.
What about, who was your favorite speaker, Santiago?
I'm gonna have to say, I forget what is the name of this guy that you were just talking about.
Oh, Andy?
Yeah, Pandy and Laura were definitely my favorites, but it wasn't just about the technologies that they were sharing. It was just about how they could, my attention, would stay with them.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a technical talk, and I feel like they introduced a little bit about themselves and what they've been doing and everything like that. And that to me is so important to be able to communicate in an engaging way and not get bored, because otherwise you're just talking, but my mind's not there, so. I think for me, this conference was like one of the biggest things was seeing how everybody did their talks differently and like which one like impacted me the most because of the way they were on stage.
Yeah, their presence, their energy.
Right. Yes.
What about you, Miguel? What's your favorite one?
Favorite. Dang.
I'm gonna have to switch to that lightning talk actually from
Oh, okay.
from I forgot his name already, but where he showed that little part of code with Python.
You're talking about Ali?
No.
No?
What was the topic about?
He was just showing how we could, like when you added certain, you print them out.
Oh
I
yeah,
thought that was like I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. It's like
Yeah.
5 minute talk, but I was like, that's
That's
a killer.
yeah. Those kind of operations are a joke in JavaScript, but we won't get into that part of it.
This wasn't for JavaScript.
Like adding variables and stuff. It's math, right?
It's basically on my
Oh,
level, super
yeah,
basic. Now you
yeah.
remember it?
Okay,
Yeah,
I know exactly which one you're talking
Yeah, I guess I would. I guess would be the snake chess one. That was pretty interesting. I also got into chess during the pandemic. Not as good as he did. He showed his numbers; they're crazy. But yeah, that was the best talk in my opinion, based on my interest. I guess technically speaking, like more of the technical portion of it would be more of a. Which one would it be? What's the name of it? Yeah.
Calculating.
We're building it right now. We're rendering it.
Rendering.
Yeah. No, forgot.
Oh, okay.
I really wish we would have been there to there were a couple sponsors and I think they had cool products. I really
Oh,
wish.
you want to talk about the sponsors? Sure, let's go.
Let's go.
We'll definitely have to go. I'm gonna have to go back
Well, first
to
we
the
gotta
recordings.
go to my favorite.
Oh yeah, you're
My favorite was definitely Ali. Like Santiago was touching on earlier, just his presence. And so, like, one of my big takeaways as kind of a person who likes to do some public speaking, and I'm kind of getting more into it, obviously. Just like noticing the difference between people's styles of speaking. One of the big issues was like projecting your voice, and like I would say 75-80% of people had a lot of trouble doing that, and that could also be the mic, and there was a lot of issues with the projector and stuff like that. That was probably my biggest like pain points.
But we had a great time anyway,
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah, no, it was
Wow.
It was awesome.
Wait till the end to bash all the bad stuff about it. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be technical difficulties. Like they said, we're developers, not hardware people, so it is what it is.
It's always the hardware.
Yeah,
It's never the software.
hardware people need to get on it. Make seamless hardware, But let's see. Do you guys want to talk about sponsors a little bit and
Yeah.
what we learned from them?
I mean, the only one that I learned from was Elastic,
That was cool. Very interesting.
which Miguel, I think, is going to be a little bit more familiar with Elastic shortly or soon.
I mean, I should be, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But
This is mainly more of a Santiago thing. He had
Oh,
more-
because I
Yeah,
like to
you-
talk to sponsors and get free swag. Actually, I got a lot of stickers, which is like a great takeaway for me. Like, I'm probably just gonna keep them in a drawer. But yeah, Elastic I think it was pretty cool because he was explaining that you have basically all this data, like on your computers and employees and stuff, and you can put it on the cloud, but at some point, you don't go back as far on that data, so you don't really need it to be on that cloud. So you're paying for storage. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might have forgot some, but
right.
you don't need to pay for all that data that you're not going back to and using it. So you can,
capture an image.
yeah, like archive it.
Yeah.
So like you can access it. It'll be safe, but it's not taking part of your storage on the cloud.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong, but like you can put in cold storage, he said, with AWS, and then
Mhm.
still be able to query it somehow and not pay as much, which is very interesting. That was interesting part of it, and probably being able to have a better view of the data in it, basically with Elastic, and being able to search it and query a lot easier overall, and basically allowing you to really leverage all the data you already have. So yeah, definitely a cool product. A lot of companies use it to route data and stuff like that, and analyze it. And then I don't know anyone else. Like they
I
had
talked to somebody else, but I forgot their name.
Scout.
What was it?
So,
I didn't talk to Scout,
Oh, okay.
but I mean, I looked him up and it seemed pretty interesting.
Yeah, they were like performance monitoring, application performance monitoring.
Like that, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of companies that do that.
Yeah,
So
Well,
you know,
yeah.
it is. Yeah,
What was the other one?
it just monitored performance issues and regressions like in real time and substantially improved trust and the release process is kind of what they're showing on their site as I'm sitting here
I
trying
think
to
it
look
was
them
that
up
one.
to do them justice.
Yeah. So
But
Rookout, is that how you say it?
Rookout.
Rookout. So yeah, I talked to him for a little bit, and it was hard to grasp for me at least because I'm not like a developer like you guys. But basically, it was saying that you can test your code in production without interrupting. But that'd be more something that you
Interesting.
guys would have to talk about because I'm just SharePoint, so it's a bit different how that plays out, I think.
no adding code, no reproducing issues, no more waiting.
Right. So he showed me like a live demo, and he was like, you just link it to your, where your repo is, and he was in production, and he, he pinned a part on his code, and then he just went into the app and tested it like real live with real data,
Mhm.
which took like I don't know, like I'm still learning a lot, but like why would you want to test in production, right? I don't know. For me,
Well, I mean, sometimes the bug is only in production for some reason.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out why you can't reproduce it in your local environment. Because again, a lot of we don't tend to have the same infrastructure on our local machines that we do on a full production,
yeah.
right? So there's that. It's definitely interesting how they're doing that. I mean, it looks like, just looking it up right now, I think they just interact with the data in real time through the cloud, probably. I don't know. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Don't know how I would use it personally, but yeah. Didn't really talk too much else. So
Yeah. So I guess kind of like in summation, it's my first in-person tech conference. I had a good time. I got to network with several people from different countries and different states, right? I kind of assumed that a lot of people would be from Texas, and there were, but there was a lot of people from California, Chicago, other states, Northwest Arkansas.
other countries.
Lots of people from other countries. In fact, I'm sure Santiago's upset that he didn't get to see the Argentinian speaker from Buenos Aires.
There was.
He was going to be. He didn't show up. I don't think he was one of the ones that.
What?
When they rescheduled.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah.
How am I just now finding out about this?
I just read it on the internet.
Okay, but like you say, like people from different countries. Technically, I live in Arkansas, but I'm not from here. So.
yeah. Well,
He's from a different country.
Right.
Anywhere we go, we have somebody from a different country.
He was a Texas Tech CS student, essentially. But he was from Buenos Aires
Wow.
originally.
We gotta look into that.
Yep.
Well, you just ruined my night.
First in-person tech conference, awesome networking. I had a lot of fun, and I will definitely do it again.
Well, I think we got to know a little bit about Austin, about downtown, riding in scooters. I could say more about that, but let's just leave it for another time. But yeah, I think we had fun, and it's a cool trip with the squad.
We're gonna be moving to Austin next month. That's gonna happen.
The weather is wonderful.
Yeah.
Once it gets midsummer, though, we'll see how wonderful it is.
Definitely.
Right, but it is also drier, so
Yeah.
that is doesn't seem as hot or oppressive as
Yeah.
Really to see some bats. That's a good one too.
Oh yeah, we went to the Bat Bridge under Congress Ave. Essentially, thousands and thousands of bats make their way out from under this bridge nightly, and it was super cool to see. In fact, I'm about to dip to go see it again. So
Cool. Yeah, so that kind of covers everything. Whoever watches this live or not live, thank you for watching.
yeah, thank you.
Have a good one. Now go shut it.
We'll see you all later.
Peace.